Back to the show. Bass and Bonsai, back in the house. I'm trying to finish up the talk that I started last night, but sorry. I apologize. John Wayne says never apologize. But anyway, he's not here with us anymore. Last night I started, it was a Fireball Friday. Things were going great. And then I had to go basically to dinner. So I had to cut it short. But we got the Fireball fired back up. So I want to talk about a few things, finish up about the trip to Rogers Sporting Goods. You can see we've got the handle switched around. I picked up a few of those. These guys right here, some of you guys don't like the Abu Garcia stuff. That does not say Abu, but anyway, I am not a fanboy of any one brand. I kind of like to, swim in the waters and check out everything that's out there. But I also want to, real quick, because I'm friends with several people that are in a fishing deal that are also in other parts of the country that are Chiefs haters. And am I a Chiefs hater? No. I live in KC. Am I a diehard Chiefs fan? No. Just like I'm not a Daiwa fanboy, Abu Garcia fanboy. I am what you call, I like the Chiefs since they're a Kansas City team. If you guys kind of know what's going on here locally with the Chiefs, they're kind of trying to take advantage of the fame we've had over the last Super Bowls and trying to move build a new stadium and all that. And we can get into all that, but this is a fishing channel. But if you guys want to get into the weeds on the whole sports teams and how they basically make the fans pay for everything, is kind of to the point of being ridiculous. Sometimes these millionaires need to pay for their own stuff, right? Just like we're got in politics. But if you want to go into those weeds, I'll go there with you. But this is about fishing reels and rods, Rogers Sporting Goods. Let's talk about China, AliExpress. But when I was at Rogers, I was trying to explain last night, before I got so rudely interrupted by the family wanting to go to dinner or something weird like that, that I picked up these handles, and they've got a lot of stuff on clearance at Rogers. If you haven't watched that video, I did pretty much explain everything they have there on clearance. I'm not really going to talk about that in this video. I'm going to talk about some of the rods and reels that I saw up there. Again, I kind of, got more time to put my hands on them and check them out. I haven't fished with any of the stuff, but just like this reel, I have done some cast testing and stuff like that. So the Lose Elite, you guys follow the channel, you've heard about the crazy Lose lady and all that. She sent me one of the handle assemblies. So I picked up one of those 80 millimeters and I switched it over the knobs to see if I would like the 80 millimeters. And I'm almost convinced that for regular bass fishing, I don't like the 80 millimeter anymore. I've kind of gone away from the single lifestyle, went back to the doubles, and it's really, you don't need the doubles, but you kind of get used to it. And I don't know if this may be a little too long, but I'm kind of liking that 85, 88 millimeter and some that are 90. This is 100 millimeter. But this is my the HLC 36 millimeter spool, crazy workhorse reel. I use it for my on the tequila back rack for swim baits. But my average one that I do like are like on these Steezes, these 85s, and I've got a few 88 millimeters coming with this. I'm going to put a set of these knobs on it and see how I like that. Maybe even try it out on this. If I like it better than that, then this handle just will be put to the side. I'll put these knobs on that handle I got coming. But that 85 to 90, I feel anytime you go over that, so this is 85. The Zillions come with the 90. And those are, they're for regular type half ounce, 3/8 ounce, half ounce, 3/4 ounce, even up to an ounce or whatever. That's probably the handles. I've done it for years with 80, and I've kind of gotten used to 80, but like once you go to bigger and then smaller, it's almost like you can go faster. Actually, in all honesty, a lot of guys told me you can't. Like if whatever your gear ratio is, let's do a little quick deep dive on handle length, how they technically do change your gear ratio. The motor that's attached to your reel is your hand that's turning it all. And so if this is further out, it's going to take you longer. I don't care, you know, if you try to go as fast as you can with a little 80 millimeter or this, you're going to be able to go faster with the 80 millimeter. Therefore, you created a faster reel by putting a shorter handle. If you were looking for more power, you're going to create power. And I know they can get all the arguments, no, with the way the gears are made and this and that, that's not even a thing, but it is. It's science, it's physics, it's a thing. You get a little more power, you get a little more grip. But the reason I like some of these bigger handles isn't because I want to be able to grab and just winch, like what's technically a bait casting reel is a little mini winch, basically, once you start reeling in fish. I like the fact, just like I believe it was one of the swim baiters that kind of described it the best, that you just get to fishing, and a lot of times you're caught off guard or you're just not paying attention, and you're better off to have a knob that you just are like kind of stuck to, right? You're less likely to lose grip on it, more so than a power winch, and you just need to be able to grab on it, because you can honestly take the smallest little bitty knob like this and put it on a handle, way out here. There you have got the power. You don't necessarily need this any longer, any bigger to create the power. It's all about the grip. And a lot of guys like these, but I feel these, I just have never liked, once they started flattening these more and more. I'll be honest, the ones that I liked were back in the day. I was perfectly happy with the standard Abu Garcia with those reel grips stuck on them. You know what I'm talking about? You guys know what I'm talking about. I've got some somewhere laying around. Oh, wait. Let's take a look at a junk rod and reel. Since I've got it here in the corner. It is filthy, dirty, and has one of the most horrible reels ever made on it. But this right here. It's those Zebco 30. These right here. These actually, when put on right, these have been on here, the kids fishing it forever. The newer style Zebcos are like junk. They're nothing like the old ones. But that's just an old Berkeley lightning rod. You guys heard me talking about them. I don't know which generation this was, but these were actually good rods. The guides, and I'll just show you. The only thing wrong with these lightning rods is coming up right there. The guides themselves weren't really that bad. The problem was, I can't turn it far enough to show you. They didn't like put wrapping behind it, so where these the glue would like it just, when especially cheaper rods, you're just throwing them around and kids are using them, and the guides would like whoop, slide out of there and then eventually get smashed or whatever. But they're kind of notorious for not having great guides. But the real grips, and they still sell them. And for a long time, there were several people like sponsored by them, I guess. I don't know if they had them, talked about them in videos. But I was perfectly fine with that. But I've always been a fan of getting a good grip on the knobs. And then I've kind of I end up liking faster reels, which sometimes I admit could probably hurt me by not being able to slow down enough as much as I need to. Now these I kind of shaped myself, kind of like what the Abu Garcia are on their round knobs. And then these I actually took all that off and I left just the outer part. This is probably my favorite style of grip, like right there. But, I mean, these work and feel pretty much just the same. Maybe look just a hair more like balanced and better, maybe, I don't know. But these all work pretty much the same. And if you remember right, I got those kind of more round knobs. And then these also I shaped somewhat to get them. But that kind of knob and about that size is about perfect for your average stuff. But then sometimes if you got a little more, if you're throwing maybe a 10XD or you want something with a little more, get just a little more grip on a bigger thing, it doesn't hurt. Like I feel these are appropriate once you're throwing them bigger swim baits on, say, a heavy, extra heavy, just bigger rod anyway, technically bigger reels. Like you definitely could put that right onto 200 or 300 size reel and be fine. Technically, this is just a standard size Steez, frame wise. So I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Now I couldn't the nut retainer wouldn't fit that handle, so I just find a gold that doesn't quite match up. I think I like the ones with the slots cut out a little better than the ones with the holes. That's the old school type Abu Garcia. And a lot of you guys are like, why you got something that says lose on a Steez? But yeah, whoa, that reel's upside down. We ain't worried about that. It's all about the feel, really. I like this is one of my favorite grips. Now, what I'm trying to do, and I don't know if you guys can tell by looking at these, in using it, this new one, I don't know, I'm going down a bunch of rabbit holes tonight, but this new one feels so grippy, almost sticky feeling. Now, I kind of started to wash this, but I didn't wash these off when I took them off. It doesn't feel as grippy, and I don't know if there's a simple way to get back to it. I don't want to like have to like sand on it, because I'll be honest, what I do with if whether it be foam, which these are foam, and I haven't cleaned these. These are from a season or so. I need to like just give them a brush. What I do is I just use a fine sandpaper and the wet or dry sandpaper, and when I'll go up and I will either take them off or I'll just hold it like that and kind of put the sandpaper under the sink, and then with the sandpaper almost like you're wiping it off. It just brings that feeling back to new, which that's what I did with this earlier today. And then they definitely feel, it makes cork feel like brand new. Cork's not quite as grippy right off the bat as what like the wind grip material is, but it's definitely better, and it's pretty grippy. And cork, if you guys know, kind of as it gets wet, it doesn't lose. If anything, it gains a little. So other than the fact they wear out probably faster than almost any other material for handle and grips, they definitely are lightweight and they're grippy stuff to hold on to. I can't figure out, I don't know if I want to, other than maybe a different type of cleaning thing than what I use to just make those feel like brand new again. And maybe they just, you don't get back to that brand new feeling. I don't know. So let's get into when I was up at Rogers Sporting Goods. I was telling you guys about. Did we talk about the? I don't remember exactly how much we got into and what I talked about. I kind of was comparing the new Steez to some other reels. So we got out. They also have some Poison Ultima rods up there. They happen to be like behind the counter, so they don't put those out once they get up to that like crazy. They got all the G Loomis, the NRX Pluses. They're out there right on the floor where you can pick them up and handle them. But they, for whatever reason, they have the Poison Ultimas behind the counter. They got the Poison Adrenas out with all the other rods. So they're right there. The guy grabbed one. We put the new Steez on it. We also put the new Tatula. He pulled one out of the package. They hadn't actually put those out on display yet. The new Tatula SV with boost. They had the new Tatula 70. I can't remember if that one's got boost or not. I don't think, maybe that one's got boost too, but I don't like, and I kind of found out why I don't like the new reels. If you guys remember right, I've had them all, and then one of you guys was also talking about the fact that I had, or that I should get Alpha's Ito, which I already had one. Jay is who ended up with that one. If you guys remember right, I got one. We did some stuff to it. I cleaned it up. It's already been on the channel, the one I had, and then I ended up selling it to Jay, who's a subscriber, for those of you that don't know. And he's happy with it. And Alpha Zito is an awesome reel. So anyway, they had the new Tatula, and we put that on a Poison Ultima. Like, technically, I think that's the cheapest Daiwa reel you can get with boost on probably one of the, if not the highest, one of the highest Shimano rods you can get, except for maybe the Loomis Conquest thing. And that actual combo looks good together, and it palms very good. But that Tatula palms maybe even better than this or a Steez or almost any reel I felt. It doesn't feel smaller than like the Bantam or the Corrado BFS, like that frame kind of thing, or the Aldebaran for matter, but it feels as like your hand just naturally, and I have pretty big hands, so that might be part of why. But like I like these reels that have, I can just reach up and grab it, and I know exactly where my thumb is on the reel. Something about some of these others, like this one's, is kind of the same way. There's almost like a little high rise on either side. So as you're grabbing it and you're just fishing, you're kind of right there where you're at. And the Steez, most reels, you end up there. The reason I don't like a lot of reels, and including the smaller alphas and all those like it, the basically 70 series on the Daiwas now, is my big hands, the way I like to palm a reel. When I put my thumb up here and I start turning it, the T-wing, the line guide, rubs my thumb. So like I start fishing or doing whatever, and then it, no matter, I have to like literally move it on purpose to put it out of the way where it won't hit the line guide won't hit my thumb. But then if like I'm not paying attention, then all of a sudden the drag star, if you guys know what I'm talking about, that smaller reel, I don't have one to show you. And that reel is honestly too small, or the way they made that, it's kind of humped up at the top where you would put your thumb. It makes me just not like the reel. I know I'm talking, we're down a deep rabbit hole, nitpicking all like the stuff. And that's why I kind of stay away. If all them newer reels that kind of have the point at the top and it humps down, Cast King, a lot of the Lus I think are still like that. And just most of them reels, I know I wouldn't like them just because of the palming and the, there's almost all these reels fish pretty good. Now, some of them are way smoother than others, mainly Daiwa and Shimano. But the Lus are pretty good. This reel feels excellent. The only downside, if you haven't been following the channel, is every time you touch this reel, you just dirty it up. It's got that finish. Unfortunately, I heard a couple things. I don't know how true it is or not, but the guy behind the counter was telling me that the new Steez is starting to get a rap for not being a real great finish. It gets boat rash fairly easy. Now, maybe guys out there, just trying to treat it like a regular reel. And almost every reel, if you just throw it around in your boat, you're going to rash it up. Almost every, I don't know if there's hardly any that don't. I take pretty good care of all my stuff, and this one definitely. The Zillion's the worst finish, one of the worst finishes I've ever seen. This Zillion Silver, I would almost put with Megabass Black back in the day. But, like, as far as just, flaking or anything on its own, no. But it definitely does not take much abrasion to start wearing it off. Either A, way not thick enough of a coating of paint, or just it's just not a durable enough paint. The new Tatula looks to have a pretty good finish, but so the new Steez does also. It's kind of a weird, those things, I would call the new Steez under certain light, which is kind of like the Megabass rods. It'll have a grayish blue look, but like a polished up gray primerish look. I don't know. It's just some of your newer cars actually even come in that crazy grayish color, but then it almost just looks like a dark or a light black. I haven't yet to see it out in the sunlight. This is just up at Rogers, kind of like with the lighting I have here looking at it. Like this reel is a very dark reel, but it has no, I wouldn't call it at any angle looking at it that it has a gray tint to it. It's more of just a very polished, very dark gunmetal or black. I would call this a very dark blue, like very dark. And then this silver, this is so far still my favorite color that I've seen on a reel, because it doesn't show hardly any, just scuffs, print. Like, I don't know, this one may have a scuff somewhere on it, but it's definitely just that almost a metallic finish that looks pretty good. Side note, the Salamandura, that is the Salamandura. I had the Salamandura that's like the 70 frame I was talking about that had the gold spool. Charles ended up with that one. That reel is a brighter red, and I don't think it was that metal flaky type stuff like what the Zillion Salamandura is a darker red, almost maroon, and it definitely is like a metal flake type color. So I believe they've changed the color slightly. They still all kind of have that red maroonish look, but I think almost every one of those Salamanduras is like a different little tint of red. So if you guys don't know, I already do have one of the new Steez is coming. It's on the way. I was hoping it showed up before the weekend, but it didn't. I'm thinking, just thinking out loud, I think I'm going to put it on my blade because it should match up perfectly. It'll be, once it shows, no, actually it won't be. It won't be. My most expensive reels are these. These are still, not this one. This one and the other two are selling for more on Digitaka than what the new Steez is. But it'll be like my newest with the most supposedly technology in it compared to all these others. So I'm going to put it on the blade because not necessarily the blade is my favorite rod. It's my favorite rod for chatterbaits, which is my favorite thing to throw. So therefore, I think I'll put it on it. I'll probably actually put cork, maybe not that handle, maybe these cork knobs with this cork can. I'm going to do some changing up once it finally shows up. But I'll probably end up putting put another set on it. I don't think I have any more cork. I think all I've got left are, if you guys remember a phase when I was going with the blue on the carbon lights, and then I've got some of these green ones still floating around somewhere. But yeah, and if you guys know, I think you can get these now maybe like this, but I had to make these. These were originally started out like flat knobs that I ground down to shape them like these, because these are about my favorite. They only have like 3 or 4 colors, and these are not that expensive, and they're shaped just about right. All the other ones, the cork ones, I have to kind of shape them to get them to about that shape. These all come already shaped and just feel real good. That foam, I wish they would make this foam almost just like that pattern, like a camo-y, how they have that pattern in shades of brown. The darkest brown they can get, and then a mid one, and then a light brown. You know what I mean? If that blue was almost black, basically, and then if that gray was a lighter or just a dark brown, but you could easily tell was brown, and then all of the light blue was actually a very light brown. You know, try to imitate cork in some way. I think they would sell these like hotcakes, which they already sound pretty good. A lot of times these are in multiple different colors at any given time or sold out. But somebody needs to do that. They need to come up with the wind grips or with the foams to imitate cork, not just because cork does wear out almost faster than anything else. Even after several years, it just starts to get that older look. You can tell like the age of cork, just like trees kind of thing. As it gets older and older, it kind of deteriorates. Even if you lightly sand it like I talk about. And you can do the U40 cork sealer, which I have right here, but I just usually never hardly take the time to seal them up as I clean them, but I probably should. So we talked enough about reels. They talked about the new Tatula. Here's my thoughts on it. Right now, and comment below if you showed 6 of you right now are watching. I know, huge crowd tonight, but anyway, we usually get 6 to 10 or so. I know, huge channel. I have no idea why we don't have more views per video on any given video, because some of my videos will get up to 5 to 10,000 views, and others will get like 68 to 120 to 250. It's kind of weird. The rods, let's jump from reels to rods. If you guys have any questions about reels or what I've used in the past, and I'll be honest, I've tried almost every version of some reel somewhere just to see if I liked it or not. And just because I liked it doesn't mean I kept it. I just fish for fun. For those of you that don't know, for those of you that know, probably get tired of me saying that. I don't want no part of a tournament. It's all about the hobby fishing in the sport of catching fish and trying to make it as fun for me, but as kind of sporty. But I don't want to just, I don't want to go out with 2 pound line and chase a fish around for an hour and then have it break off and it swallowed the lure and it killed the fish. And then, that kind of, I want to bass fish, give the fish somewhat of a fighting chance, give it a big old kiss, Jimmy Houston style, and throw it back out. I've ate fish before. I'm not a cannibal, but I have eaten bass fish before. Love fishing if we ever, it's been years, but getting moved like to eat some fish, go fishing for crappie. Or if you're further where there's walleye. Walleye and crappie taste way better than bass. I don't care what anybody tells you. Bass have a little bit touch of their own taste that's not quite as good, in my opinion, as crappie or walleye. I know I've sidetracked the talk, but I like to leave the scales. I like to descale the crappie and leave the crappie skin on, and then if the opportunity's there, to deep fry my fish. But then, of course, catfish. I'll be honest. The last, I don't know, several years I fished catfish. I stopped doing the staking stuff, and I started filleting my catfish too. I know you waste some meat, but I would fillet them. Less chance of any kids getting bones and that kind of stuff, or me leaving bones in. And then you can get more of that junk, what I call junk meat, any of that darker stuff out. And properly soaked in salt water, honestly, you can make almost any fish. Maybe not taste as good as certain other fish, but taste way better. My grandma was one. I remember my grandpa, and we'd go fishing with him, or if he just came back from fishing, we didn't go. But like, he would clean the fish, and then I just remember him sitting on the kitchen table at my grandma's house for, seemed like to me forever. Like, what are they doing there? And then she'd put them up or do whatever with them, and then we'd eat them either that day, the next day, or whatever. And they, the only time I've had fish straight out of a skillet that was absolutely delicious is when my grandma cooked them. And I think a lot of that was just how she prepped the fish before they made it to that skillet. But morel mushrooms and fish out of that skillet, nothing better. Now, my cousin was big on putting a little bit of that beer, making a beer batter type stuff, and having a deep fryer going. And he was a stickler on how hot that grease was when you dropped them in. And he'd cook up a batch, drop, and then pull them out, and then he'd see what the temp was, and he may have to let it set another minute or so before he put the next batch in. It just depended. Like, he was a big thing, and man, those fish at Fish Fries, very good. So anyway, little sidetrack on fish. Bass fish, if you're going to keep them, throw the bigger ones back, keep the littler ones. If you are fishing to survive, to eat fish, go crappie fishing or catfishing. Just prepare them better. And then I've also heard carp are delicious, and you do away with the bone type thing if you use a pressure cooker to cook carp. But I don't know nothing about that. That was my uncle. Old stories my uncle talking about. And I know a couple of my grandpa's old coon hunting buddies they love bullhead. Now, bullhead fish, they would take them, and they always brought them to us. They were spicy. They just called them spicy bullheads, and those were delicious. I've ate about every kind of, from wild type stuff, fish and animals and that kind of stuff. So let's jump to the rods from Roger Sporting Goods. I was up there yesterday, and I'd seen them before. They've kind of revamped them. They changed them up somewhat. And I knew I liked them before. There's a few, like, if you guys remember right, and I've tried to search for one rod for years, the Daiwa Heritage. There's a certain one with almost like a pistol grip, short, the almost had like the handle, all the assembly. I can't remember exactly what it was, kind of for top waters and stuff. And they made a few different ones in that, but it had that bigger cork type pistol grip handle assembly. Cannot find those suckers anywhere. And some of the black labels, some of the other different Daiwa rods, but they kind of become scarce. And for whatever reason, now evidently you also, these new, I call them, or it basically they'll be on the thing, starts capital Kage, so cage, but Kagi or whatever, Ka and then Ge. Those rods up at Rogers, they got in a batch that now have some of the red highlights, but then the whole blank is just solid black. Like they've even like it's hard to tell that the wrappings where they other than a bump, they're basically the same color as a blank. And they've got several models, but like the 6.8 and the 6.10 are basically Ford jerkbait. Like one's a specialty jerkbait, another one's more of a power jerkbait kind of thing. But and then a couple 7-footers and then a couple 7.3s, medium heavies and stuff like that. But man, those rods, they're $199 and they feel very good. They feel like to the point where the balance and the lightweight of how they are, and definitely just how they're made, the components feel very good. You'd have to probably just take them out fishing to see how they compare to like an X Pride or even a Poison Adrena, or even the Destroyer P5s for that matter. I'm sure they're not the same blank material as like a P5, or probably even the Poison Adrena. Who knows? But I'm guessing they got to be there close to what the X Prides are, which are new $279 rods. They can't be too far off of some of those once you get up there in that higher price. But they're just real like clean and look good rods. So I'm debating about getting one of those at that price and trying it out, and then maybe getting anything that's under 7 foot in that range for that price if I really like them. So I don't know. I may get one of those. But I kind of come to the conclusion I'm going to see if they'll take in. If you remember right, and that's what one of you commented off the bat, like take that rod back or whatever, because if you remember, when I picked up this reel, I was like, well, I was looking at this rod, and I thought, well, that matches up pretty good. And this rod does feel very good. And I'll talk about why I'm going to see if they'll take it back in on trade, either for the Elite TI rod that they do have one of those up there in a 6'10", roughly basically the same as what this one is. And I know it's upside down, but 6'10", medium power or medium heavy, action is moderate fast. I like the way this rod feels. I like everything about this rod. Price wasn't crazy insane. Soft touch, reel seat. Very good wind grip. I like that part. This part is actually supposed to help you with sensitivities, why they extended out with the carbon, more of a solid to the blank. Every lose reel with this, which I kind of knew it, I should have known it, but I know it 100% for sure now. It's because I was comparing. They had another one of these up there. So when I was up there yesterday, I was also comparing this rod basically in the in the one they had up there to the Elite TI and to other ones, other Daiwa, Shimano, Loomis, which Shimano and Loomis have almost everything they put out now, and I'm getting ready to show you on the Poison Adrena is that same reel seat. Even the Poison Ultima, they just cut it down. But this right here to where this is, so if you look right here, if you can make out where you're, and I always palm like this, so this is going to set right there. This is how, now if you're the guy that palms right here, you probably would never notice that. If you're the guy that never bothers with what I call choking up on the rod, none of this will matter. But if you are a stickler on how something feels in your hand, and you cast, I cast right-handed and I switch to my left, or if you cast left or right-handed, but you like to work your way up, and palm the reel. Pay attention to where that is. That's where the back part, that, there's no adjusting this. That reel is going to come all the way back here, and then this is going to tighten down on it, right? So if you look, that is actually behind where this starts. And that throws the rods completely, or the reel completely off. So let me show you. Well, let's just grab, we'll look at both. We'll look at the Megabass and the Shimanos. And a lot of the Luz, if they don't have that little hole on the trigger, they're usually different. So here, and this is a longer rod, I probably should. So if you look right here on the Shimano, if you can see right here, but it is at least even or a little bit up from that. It's not back. And it's only like, I don't know, I probably should try to figure out a way to measure that. It's not that much, but that is just enough to throw a reel back and let it set differently in your hand. So let me show you with the Megabass. If you can make this out. So right in here, if you look at that, if anything, this is slightly ahead of where this starts. And it's not by much. But the Elite TIs they have up there, they're definitely way up there. And I'm just going to show you this one. This is probably the standard one. This thing comes on a bunch of reels. This is the one from AliExpress, the Feeling. So here's probably what a lot of rods come with. It's kind of just that standard one. And it is also a little bit forward, if you guys can make that out where it starts. It's not by much, but it's, you could call it, let me look at it. Yeah, your reel seat up here is going to start a little bit forward, higher up than where your trigger starts. So when you put your up here, the reel is going to be setting up that way just a little more. And where it helps is what I'll show you also. Do I have any other style of reel seats? I don't think so. Let me show you the Poison Adrena. Or no, sorry. Let me show you the X Pride, because we'll talk about most of them that come like this. So, and we'll put, well, let's just put this reel on it. So let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. So when you put a reel on it, and we'll also talk about why I hate Abu Garcia's, most of them. So when you put a reel on that, and you grab right here, there's this crazy thing about if this moves back further, your hands don't have a choice to tuck behind this little hump. They're kind of forced to set funny. It's hard to explain until you just go and handle it, you know. So what I would suggest, if you have the opportunity, take whatever reel. If you're looking, if you've already got some reels and you're looking for some rods, take the reels up to wherever you go and throw them on the rods you're trying out just to see how they feel. But the CI4 is what almost every Shimano, I would say from the SLX up, maybe not the SLX. I think the SLX has this style, but it's not. Maybe not. It's not CI4, and I don't think it's soft touch. But that shape is pretty much on the NRX Pluses. The Poison Ultima has this, and then this part is even cut out more on the Poison Ultima. So they basically cut right down here, and then so it's like one smooth cut to where it doesn't have that little, which I consider, I think they put it there so you could use it as a hook keeper type thing. I believe that's what I ended up using it. You can kind of tell maybe it's got a couple little scuff marks on it. It works very well for that, because this crazy one way back here, I don't like. So the luge, that's what I was going to show you. And I don't know why, but every luge that I looked at up there anyway, and I believe they're all like that. Every luge that has, see how that's got that light, what I would call like a lighten thing to make it lighter, I guess is why they cut that out. But all of this style, if you look at how far back, you see what I'm talking about? This thing's like right here, and so that thing should be like right here somewhere. It's literally moved back. Now, some guys, it may actually find that may be something that would help you, because from the different luges I looked at up there, like there's the KVDs, and there's a lot of them that don't have this. They're just as skeletonized as like what this one is, but then they've got just a flat, either more of a flat. They don't have the cutout. Every rod that has that cutout has that moved back. This is like just a common thing that's on a lot of those. The mocks, the ones with the green, and it's usually the cheaper ones. And I don't like that. I'm not going to mess with any rods that have that. So I'm going to see if Rogers will take that one back in on trade on the one. If not, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I could either trim that one up, or I could just slap another reel on it and let some, let people that fish with me, like my son would fish that reel rod, no problem. But just something to keep in mind. Dun, 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 dun. You're talking about this? Cedric Bouton. That, I'll do a little quick run through these. These, everything I have can either found is either Daiwa or Lose, or can be found on AliExpress. This whole handle assembly is Gomex's. I'll try to find somewhere. I think it says the name. Yeah. Gomex's on, I guess, AliExpress. I think you can find them on eBay now. Probably Temu. But that can be found on AliExpress for like 55, 60 bucks when they're in, or you can find a black version or a different whatever. Some of them are like this handle with different knobs that aren't cork. This one does probably go out of stock more than any handle roughly in this size on AliExpress. These one's bigger cork. I like these. Now, if you're talking about any of these other corks or handles or none of these all are Lose or Abu Garcia 80 millimeter. And before I move on, I'll talk about the other corks. But as I mentioned yesterday, if you are looking for an 80 millimeter carbon fiber handle for an Abu Garcia, or you have Abu Garcia or Lose knobs that you would like to utilize, and it could be on a Daiwa, could even be on a Shimano, they're selling these carbon fiber handle Abu Garcia ones for marked down to half, and I think these were originally like 50 or 60 bucks when they first got them in several years ago. They've got like 20 of these left. They're gonna be $22 up at Rogers Sporting Goods in Liberty, Missouri. You can look them up. They've got a website and all that, and you can call them, and I'm sure they would be willing to sell you these and ship them to you and all that. But Rogers Sporting Goods, 22 bucks, 80 millimeter carbon fiber handle for Lose Abu Garcia. You can find all kinds of carbon fiber stuff on AliExpress, cheaper than $22, like 10 bucks, maybe even 5 bucks, 8 bucks. But they are going to have to take Daiwa or Shimano knobs. They won't accept like the Lose or the Abu Garcia knobs. That's why when I saw that, I was like, I'll get one. I'll put it on this one, and I'll have another one. So $22, not the end of the world. So they will fit, and I found these later on last night, if you guys remember right. This right here, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's only two styles of handles. There's Shimano, and there may be another brand or two, I don't know, that have a 7x4 millimeter opening. And then there's Daiwa, Abu, Lose, and almost everybody else. I don't think I've come across the reel on AliExpress that was anything other than the 8x5 millimeter opening. So if you get a handle assembly that's 8x5 and you have a Shimano, also on AliExpress, you can get these just by themselves, or almost every handle assembly they sell. A lot of them sell it with this because it's just a cheap little insert that you fit in there and tighten it up. And yes, eventually, like I'm talking probably a year to 4 years or however long, these do kind of wear, because I've had a couple get just a touch of slop in them. Like you'll put it on and you can feel it wiggle, but usually when you tighten the nut down firm before you put the little retaining thing on, it takes any of that play away. But these actually work these are pretty good. They'll last several years. Now, would you want to do it if you're talking crazy power handles? I don't know about that, but the average, 90 millimeter or shorter, especially a little 80 millimeter, they'll last a long time. So anyway, that's just, don't be scared if you see a handle assembly on AliExpress and you're like, oh, I got a Shimano and I'm nervous or whatever, but I don't have any issues with, I wouldn't even have an issue with putting one of these if I needed to put it, like putting this onto, and actually these are a little different, you don't have to, but like putting a bigger one on to say a Bandom and I need to use one of these, I wouldn't be scared of using one of those. Worst case, that's going to get a little wobbly and you'll start to feel a little thing. It won't hurt or affect anything, and then you would just take it back out and either order another or slap another one in if it came to that point. It's not like it's going to destroy your reel kind of thing. So the corks, these you can just get on AliExpress for like $6 a piece, I think. $5.50, $6 a piece. So it ends up being 10, 12 bucks or whatever for a pair, but then you can trim them up. They come with kind of a ball. I don't have any that I haven't cut down already, or I would show you. I don't think I will. Let me check. Let me make sure, because you never know what I got over here hiding. I don't think I've got any of those. No. Oh, look, I got my little test frog, cast testing frog. That Booyah Poppin' Pad Crasher, he's seen better days. Probably still go catch a fish with him. Maybe we ought to make it a challenge. Let me check them hooks first. I'll tell you what. That sucker, still sticky. That thing's been thrown through, I don't know what. I cut those down just so it would be a little, they were just getting nasty. That thing, I bet you 100% still catch fish. Booyah Poppin' Pad Crasher. I know, I kind of went away from this last couple years. I went to trying the new Z-Man one. It's a little bigger. I don't know. I've so far in the short time I use that, I have had good luck, so I'm going to stick with it. But these are still, in my opinion, the better of the frogs out there. They're not that expensive. Booyah Poppin' Pad Crashers. And you use the regular ones, but you can do everything you can do with the Booyah Pad Crasher. You can do it with the Poppin', but you can't pop a Booyah Pad Crasher. You can pop a Booyah Poppin' Pad Crasher. That's why I just would end up buying these in a couple different colors. And that color is still my favorite. White belly topwater baits are still my favorite. I know a lot of guys think a little light chartreuse. This had a little light yellow. But anyway, I know. We're going on rants. Where did this bait pop up out of nowhere? Oh, I know what that is. So what else do we need to talk about? The rods I saw. As of right now, you can. There's still, I think I touched on it last night about the date and what time it is and all that. This is the 18th. Is this the 18th now? January 18th, 2025. Trump's going in 2 days. But anyway, as of right now, you can go to Rogers Sporting Goods. The clearance stuff is 50% off on a lot of different baits, Strike King stuff, some of the swim baits from Guggen Baits or Strike King, some of the soft plastics from Strike King, the red eye shads in 1/2 and 3/4 ounce, rattle traps. Their rods, they've got a lot of rods. Most of the reels, I think they've kind of sold off, but they've got several rods still just up with the other rods that are clearance somewhat. So they've got a handful of I think they've only got 1 or 2 Dobbins ecstasy rods that are from whatever they were down to $350, something like that. They're definitely cheaper, but I think they only got like 1 or 2. But Dobbins HP, the orange ones, I call them the orange ones, the little higher end, those are down to, oh shoot, I can't remember the prices now. I don't even remember what they do sell for, but they're cheap. They've knocked the price down. It's at least 100. It may be way more. And they've got several there, and just there's a bunch of other rods. A lot of the older rods are now marked down somewhat. So if you can go to Rogers Sporting Goods, you're in the KC area. Liberty's up north. But you can also call them and just like if you're interested in a certain rod to see what they have on it. And what else was I going to talk about? Well, I can't remember now. There's so many things that they got up there. They still do have the jigs. I'd noticed that those cheap in-house jigs that are real cheap, they still have them up there. They have a lot of the Megabass stuff. So if you're looking for a certain color of like whether it be a sleeper bluegill, the sleeper craw, and then the a lot of the different I think they even have the mag drafts, the freestyle mag drafts, and then the spark shad, stuff like that. They got quite a few Megabass baits as well, some hard baits. And they just got a lot of stuff. I don't think they have they're not like a tackle warehouse where you can go to their site and just look at all the different stuff. But they have a lot of in-house stuff also that I guess is sort of like knockoffs of stuff. They do have a very limited supply of Key Tech stuff and all that. So any questions? If not, I'm gonna end this video and I'm gonna take a little drink of Fireball. I about wore that red Solo cup out. Maybe time for a new one. And they have a wide, they have like a whole separate hunting thing, and I think there's another building on over somewhere that they sell GUNSs. But they're, I was going to talk about something. Hang on, it'll come to me. Well, I can't remember what I was going to talk about. Something else that they have up at Rogers that I thought you guys need to know about. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't need to know about anything they got up at Rogers Sporting Goods. I'll just like keep it all for myself. I am tempted to go up and buy those because they had the Guggen swim baits in was it Magic Shed, and they have a whole bunch of packages of those left at like 3.3, and they had a bigger size too. I can't remember now if it was the 3/8 or the 4 whatever. But they were half price, whatever they were. And that makes them kind of getting close in the price of the Meredith baits. So I may go and just buy all of those packages because they do have a scent, which I don't know if that even matters or not. And they had some of the KVD, or not the KVD, but the Rage Tail Strike Kings that a few of those may be worth picking up. I don't know. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Just I am going to go back up to Rogers Sporting Goods on Monday, and after I get off work, I'm gonna take this rod with me and see if they'll make a deal. If not, I'm not sure. If they will, if they'll let me trade it back in, which they should. I mean, it's brand new and still has the tags and all the stuff on it. If not, I'm going to, I guess, not buy any rods, but I'll probably buy some of the other baits. But if they'll let me trade that in on the one and give me a deal on it, the Elite TI, I might go ahead and just pick it up for this reel. If not, because I'm still debating if I'll just I may get one of those Kagi rods, Daiwas, or I may get the Elite TI to put this on in both the Daiwa rods, or I may just put this on a Super Destroyer, which it goes very well, fits, looks, works, everything, and then work on, if I get the Daiwa rods, putting something on them. And I think 100%, I know what I was going to talk about, because the Tatula, I was talking about it in palming. It's got the boost spool, and it's got a good ergonomic fit, because if you go look at the new, not the big one, not the 150, the Tatula 100 SV now has a boost. It's got this back part's kind of sloped down. It's the one that's got the little nubs right here. They got like a more of a black one, just a regular one. It's not the SV, but the SV with the boost is more of a gray finish. And that thing, the way that's cut down, and although that little hump with the dual humps looks kind of funky, it just lets it palm very good. So I'm debating about picking one of those up. But here's the thing. Here locally, and Rogers included, it's $219.99, so $220. I found it on AliExpress for $161. So I could buy it, buy a drag star, buy a clicker because it doesn't have a clicking drag, and then maybe different handle assembly or just different knobs. Drag star, drag clicker, probably still be that 220 or so in it, which you can go get one of these on Digitaka also for 225. Now then you still need to add stuff to it. But I think, I don't know, part of me just wants to try the Tatulas again. I'm not I just haven't been a fan of the Tatulas. If you guys have followed me for very long at all, I wanted to love them. I wanted to like them. I wanted to really like the Zillions. The Zillions for me were a bust. They were just a touch bigger filling than they needed to be. Same thing with the Corrado 200K. The Tatulas have just been missing from me for the price they want for me. So I've just kind of not been into the Tatulas, but I think they may have finally made one that I'm like, it may be time to get on the Tatula bandwagon, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, excuse me, ma'am. Middle something here. What are you doing, boy? Javier's down here. He's got a problem just like me. I can show you a wall of like 18 rods. Javier's into hockey, okay? Roller hockey of the local skating rink, and they own a league or whatever. How many sticks you got?
I don't even know. But I had 2 more up upstairs.
He's got 2 at the skating rink, and I'm looking over at the wall. He's got like 6 sitting up against the wall. So, and then there's a broken one laying around here somewhere. So anyway, I guess it's just a thing, right? We got to have more in case something breaks, or just, I don't know. We just got to have more and more and more of whatever hobby, sport, whatever we're into. Fishing's like a weird thing. It's like it's a hobby and a sport. I guess any sport could technically just be a hobby if you're out doing it for fun. But fishing, is it a violent hobby sport? No, not really. But I guess it could be, depending on whose boat dock you're up there fishing around, right? Who you cut off on the water. It all depends. So where was I? These kids always interrupt me. So yeah, back to the Tatulas. I'll give you a brief little rundown. If you're not familiar, okay, let's go full rundown on. Let's do the T-wings, and I'll use this one because I think this is the only one I've got with the gold T-wing. So Daiwa came out with the TWS. It was nothing like what these do now. Okay, see that? And how the T-wing works. I'll school some of you if you don't know anything about it. The first one was a T3, and then they had a T3 Air. It was probably gonna be, or if not, one of the more famous looking Daiwa reels. You almost, the minute you see it, you know what it is, T3 Air. But the T3s were silver, and they had the hood that rose up and down. This stayed in the same spot, okay? So the only thing that, and it was more up. So it's basically, let me see. The T-wing on those were like this, basically. It just, they were shaped a little different. But that's how they were. And the hood went up, and you cast, and it ran the line out. And then the hood came back down. And the hood is what pushed the line down into that little, into this. And, you know, so it was a traditional, like it would spool the line back on as you were reeling in. The hood would go up and down, and you could do it both ways. You push the button to cast, and then you could either engage the reel, or you could just simply push down on the hood and it would close. Either way worked. They worked very good. There was really no downside to that reel on performance, how it worked. Well, there was 2, and they could have fixed either one real simply. It was all made. It was made out of Zion, the whole reel, side plates, frame, all that. And so the screws, the Zion was fine. It was the screws and just the design they had with the screws going in. It was kind of known that a lot of guys would strip screws out. And I think a lot of that, they were just trying to over-tighten them when they put them back in, honestly. But screws will strip out faster in plastic than they will in aluminum. They'll strip out faster in aluminum than they will metal, you know, steel and all that. But those reels worked very good. The downside was the hood. I don't know if it's certain braid, or I don't even know how guys were doing it, because in the few I had, they had a T3 ballistic and then a normal T3. I never had an issue with. What would happen is the line would dig into a spot on that hood, and it would start causing problems, which you could simply have fixed with the insert they had in the hoods. You just could have made it tough enough to where no braid or nothing would have rubbed through it, and it would have been fine. So they could have refined that reel, but I just don't think that reel, it was a start to the T-wing, but it didn't have a longevity in the way the hood popped up. It was just too much of a thing that people didn't take to. So, but the first reel that came out with this you engage and it popped back and forth was the Tatula. Shimano would never do that. Shimano, if you guys know Shimano, they're the opposite. They put, I don't know how they go about tracking it down, figuring out where they do the testing and the research and all that, but they find a tried and true thing that's working that you can't get anywhere. Then they put it in their high-end reels. They basically are doing, R&D for their high-end reels, which are the Antares. And every once in a while, it may pop out in something that's not as expensive as the Antares. But it's pretty much, you're going to see it first on the higher-end Shimanos. And then usually that will trickle down into the cheaper stuff. Now, for whatever reason, the T-Wing, they chose to put that on almost like their cheapest offering reel kind of thing. They came out with the Tatula and then the Zillion. So I believe the Tatula was 100% first. And then the Zillion, which was basically the Tatula and the Zillion were the same reel. They were slightly changed, and how they change all their stuff, one of the things Daiwa does is they simply add a longer shaft, which almost every Shimano already has, is that shaft that goes all the way through to where this adjuster hits that. Daiwas all have like this little plastic thing that puts the pressure, and it's what they call the air rotor or whatever, to where it's, it's floating on air. It's just a little short like this. So the Tatulas have basically just always had that little longer shaft and a few other things, cheaper bearings. I'm not sure the Zillions, if they were, I don't know if they ever made those in magnesium or not, but the TDZs they kind of just did away with TDZs. Once they came out with the Steez, okay, TDZ, that kind of just went to the wayside. And then so when they came out, the Zillion was the TDZ in the States, and then Zillion just took on its own thing, and they made them in Japan, kind of thing. But they were all basically on the Tatula or Zillion, same more or less frame, just how they made some of that a little slightly different. Pretty much the same platform. Palm the same, look the same. I think the side plates would interchange kind of stuff. So anyway, that technology, once they really, they realized, okay, and I'll be honest, does it honestly give you a ton different casting distance? I don't know. You could probably take if you guys know what I'm talking about, the Aldebarans or the Metaniums with that bigger thing, cone shape with like guys. I don't know. Be curious to see somebody adapt one to a Daiwa and test it against the T-Wing. So once they kind of did that, then you started seeing they just adapted it to the higher end reels. So when they finally came out the new Steez, which is, did they come out the Steez A first or the SV? I want to say that maybe they came out the Steez A. So basically an aluminum Steez came out with the T-Wing. And I think they just double checked to make sure people were buying it. And then they came out the Steez SV, which was magnesium, basically this same reel but in magnesium. And I don't know if I've ever owned one of those. I can't remember. So when the Zillion, I have had a couple of that style, but since the Tatula was the cheaper option and seemed, you could check the T-Wing and all that if you liked it or not on how it worked. They had a Type R Tatula, and then they came out to Tatula Type R. It was a bigger, wider, it was a bigger reel. And so I think I ended up with two of those. One for sure. I may have had two of those. And then they came out with the CTs, which were supposed to be a little more compact, and a regular and a Type R maybe. And I had each one of those, and I just always ended up, they felt good and okay, but I'm just getting rid of them. So I think now that whole story goes back to, I think I'm ready to maybe just go ahead and take the leap, get that Tatula. It's got the boost. I know I like the boost. I like the T-Wings. I like the way it palms. Maybe go ahead and slap. It's going to be a boost spool by itself. Now, I don't know if you can buy, once those spools become available, if you can buy a Tatula spool, boost spool. I'm sure somebody will start copying that at some point on AliExpress or somewhere, and then adapt it to like some of the Tatula Elites in the different frames. I don't know if that's going to interchange. That'd be interesting to see is how many Tatulas have interchangeable spools. Because as far as I know, the first batches, like the first Type R and then the CTs, I think they changed the spool size. I don't know. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look. But it'd be interesting to know once that Tatula is out a while if the spools interchange. And if the real test gets one, he may be able to show all that, what does and doesn't interchange. What I'm going to show, and then I'm going to end this video because we're over an hour now. What's the lightest pound test I'll throw in a casting reel non-BFS? Honestly, I would suggest probably 12-pound test, honestly. Because if you're going to throw 10 or lighter, you may as well be just throwing, get a BFS set up, in my opinion. Now, you can do it 6, 8, or 10 kind of stuff, but if you're going anything lighter than 12-pound, you may as well... because you'll probably have more ease throwing it on some sort of BF setup nowadays. Because like back in the day, I would throw 10-pound. I would throw a lot of different stuff, like on just a medium action rod with 10-pound for kids, or for whatever on regular bait casting stuff. Was not really a huge issue, but I'll be honest, that's like back in the day when I was using mono and fluorocarbon, really like before break, like stretch, because 10-pound test will stretch. Mono will stretch so much, it's gonna probably take as much of a beating as what fish would probably break you off at 12 or 14-pound test. Some of that, the old, and I don't know if it's made anywhere near the same, but I'm telling you guys right now, back in the day, the old Strin clear blue fluorescent was some tough 10-pound test. I've caught a lot of different things, catfish, on 10-pound test. Nowadays, I would not use 10-pound test on any of my regular fishing stuff. So it's all going to be on a reel. So like these regular ones, like right now, I'm using this sucker has a pound. I think that's 40-pound braid with could be 20 or 30. I think I even have 30-pound leader material for that. But that's my heavier stuff. That's like on a very heavy, medium heavy, or heavy action rods, or maybe even up from that. But most of my stuff is going to be have 20-pound braid to either a 15, or I jump to a 20-pound, like a 15-pound leader generally, or I jump to 20 because I use a P-line original. And when I was looking online, checking all the diameters and stuff, and just like in person, it's hard to tell the difference between 15 and even the 20. You can tell, but it's not a lot. So I feel like instead of having, 12, 14, 18, 20 and all that, I just kind of have that. Now, if I feel I need to finesse fish or spooky or whatever, I'm probably going to want to throw a smaller little, chatterbait micro, a little bitty 1.0 square bill or something. I can do that with my 10-pound, on my BFS stuff. So then you jump into the filling, which typically I think I was running it with a 10-pound braid, 10-pound leader. I had 6 and 8, and then I think I just got to the point where I more or less only put 6 on the very lightweight rods, like the ultralight, more creek and streams, very little pond rods. But yeah, braid, I'm going to tell you a few stories. The lightest braid I've ever used, period, was 8-pound. I don't even remember the brand. If you can go to my channel, Bass Bonsai, and scroll all the way to the very last video, or you can probably put Bass Bonsai in the search and carp. My very first video is 2 videos. One, it's like the full video we recorded, 11, 12 minutes, and the other one's a shorter version. I snagged a huge carp on a Megabass shading, a Megabass combo. Had the Shading X with the Zonda Rosso, the red Megabass Alpha's variant reel with 8-pound braid. I'm trying to remember the brand of braid I use. I don't think it really even matters. Braid, once you get into halfway decent braid is pretty good in what it does. Fluorocarbon, I think it actually can come into more play. I like copolymer because fluorocarbon, it has that like it. You can shock it, or you can kind of wear it out, and it may not even look worn out if you know what you're talking about. And you kind of make it brittle, and it just fluorocarbon. I put it this way: fluorocarbon is that line that just will snap, and you don't know why in the hell it snapped. You're like, what happened? I just did this, or I just retied, or I just did that. But if you can kind of overexert it in using it or stretching it, or maybe have a cast and it backlash or something, and you're like, oh, no big deal. But that sudden pull of that half ounce, 3/4 ounce, or whatever weight just kind of gave it. It just makes it brittle. I'm not a huge fan of fluorocarbon. I've tried it in the past, and I'm just not a fan of it. I like to use braid to a copolymer leader because it's not really floating, it's not really sinking, and that's why I like P-Line Original. But I'm debating about finding a copolymer that they carry here locally, Bass Pro, wherever, so I don't have to order from Tackle Warehouse only, because I just have it in my head that at some point they're going to do away with P-Line Original, and I probably need to either look for another P-Line that's maybe a copolymer or some other brand just to try out. I don't really want to try out anything from AliExpress because I feel that barrier, that leader material is good line. Like, so if I was going to buy a line and do away with fishing with braid, I probably would not go for AliExpress for my line. I would honestly probably go with, oh shoot, who makes the red label? Because that's a fluorocarbon I did feel the most comfortable with for the price, and I feel I've never really lost fish due to that line. Was they make the red label, is it the gold label, or it's in the yellow box? What the hell? I can't remember the name of that line. Yeah, Seagar Red Label. That is, in my opinion, for what the pricing is, I like it. I love was it the Berkeley Transition? I like the idea of the one I had. I had the one that I think it turned red or gold when it came out of the water. And as soon as it hit the water, it was supposed to be, transparent or whatever. I like the idea of that because I could kind of see it better than the other line. But I honestly, I feel that line cost me some baits and some fish. I like the idea of that though. Something kind of like the clear blue fluorescent. It's kind of the idea of it was you could kind of see it, but it would the fish. And I really feel the whole time I fished with clear blue fluorescent, I don't think I ever spooked fish off by the color of the line. I just hate mono for the stretch. I honestly hate fluorocarbon for the stretch now. Like, I can tell the difference. If I'm fishing with a braid with a 6-foot leader, whether it's 8 pound, 6 pound, 12 pound, 20 pound, you are more in contact with what that bait is doing. I guess call me a control freak. I like to know what's going on and feel the slightest little thing. I know sometimes it may hurt me, but that's just the way I fish. I just like to feel what's going on. So I like to use, and having said that, I know I rambled on. Although I use that 8 pound, I could see better back then, and I don't even know why I had 8 pound on at the time. Now you'll never see me buy a braid that is smaller than 10 pound. 10 pound, and this is the braid I like, Proberos. It's cheap and it's never let me down. I've done a few different tests over time. I've taken my fish scale and I tied it on and I rigged this up and I pulled it and I'm watching the dial, and this is never broke under what its rating is. It's rated at 20 pounds. I've never broke it. Now any line you can do like a surge thing, because if somebody's selling you a line and they're like, oh, well, if you even jerk it, it won't break unless it's 20. That is not 20-pound braid. It's roughly, it should go a little higher than what the thing, but like the stretch and the pull. Because honestly, if you've got your drag set anywhere near right, never should that line get a sudden snap and be as taut, other than if you backlash. And so if you backlash with a now bigger swim baits kind of thing, that's why a lot of guys run 40 or 80 or whatever pound braid, just for that fact they won't like break off their high dollar expensive swim baits. Not necessarily they're worried about breaking off on a fish. But I like 10 pound for any of my BFS. Then I just go down to a smaller leader. I have 6, like I mentioned, 6, 8, and 10. And you could also, if you're like, oh man, I'm in some nasty stuff. Like every time you're out fishing and it seems like every 5th cast you're noticing nicks on your line, go up to even the 12 or the 15, even though you still got 10 on your reel, just to, not take the chance of busting the line off due to snagging or whatever. But anyway, then on my regular stuff, I used to buy 15-pound braid to a 15-pound leader and fish that. Just it seemed like almost forever, you know. And at that time when I first started, I would buy 15-pound braid and I would have 12 and 15-pound leader material. But then I just have kind of over the years, I'm like, I'm just buying 20-pound braid to put on like all my regular bait casting reels. I can run straight braid if I feel I need to, you know, tougher frog, because I'm not the one that I don't run 40 or anything like that for like just normal frog fishing. With like this frog, I had no problem for years fishing with 15-pound braid to a 15-pound leader, frog fishing with that booyah. It doesn't take as much, you know, as long as you don't set the hook on the initial bite. You just wait till you feel the fish, and then you know give a pretty good solid hook set. Not almost like you would with a jig bite kind of thing. You'll get it as long as your drag's set right. But I got a whole process for how I set it up to where you can fish with just normal line. You don't have to be that guy fishing with 40-pound braid because you're afraid of breaking off on a hook set. So 20-pound braid on the regular stuff, 10-pound for BFS. The main reason on BFS or anything under 10 is it's just harder to feel and work with and see. It's hard to deal with 10-pound braid. You get out, boat's rocking, it's windy, and you know, my eyesight, even with my, you know, glasses on, I'm trying to, you know, tie a double uni. I'm definitely not doing no FG knot or something fancy with a little video line. That's why I use double unis. It's a solid knot I know how to tie. I could technically tie it without even hardly looking at it, but that braid at 10 pounds, it's easy enough to kind of still work with. You get under 6, you know, even 4, I don't know, that braid goes so low. Like the 8-pound or 6, it's just so hard. I got pretty big hands. The eyesight's not what it is, especially your hands are feeling a little cold. Trying to tie knots with a very small braid or line for that matter, you know, that's why I try to stay. I've bought 2 and 4-pound, and I had a few rods back in the day. I would crappie fish with 4-pound test. That's just what I use. I use 4-pound test on a spinning rod, and I used a shorter rod and an ultralight rod, and that's just what I fished with for crappie until I finally realized and caught on more or less my waters where I fish. Crappie, they're not scared of 10-pound test because you can go fishing with kids. 10-pound that comes spooled already on a Zebco 33 or whatever, like they're casting out and catching them as fast as you are, and you're like, oh, you know what? They're not really line shy. I'm not saying you shouldn't keep 6 or 4. Somewhere around, just for those days, if you just feel like, man, I think it's just that these fish are so spooked, they're seeing my line and they won't hit. Because every time I start thinking that way, I go out fishing with my cousin or somebody, and they're fishing with braid also or whatever, but they're just tied straight on. They're like, oh yeah, I just tie straight on. And they're catching fish just like me, and I'm like, man, I could have sworn my 6-foot leader made all the world in the difference on them fish hitting. But, and I'm not saying sometimes it doesn't, but there's a lot of times we overthink how much them fish are paying attention to our line. And then there's other times we're not thinking about it, and that's what's costing us bites. Kind of knowing when to have it. That's why I like to have leader material in my box, and I always tie a leader on. I'm like, I like that extra knowing that I got 6 foot of just a touch. I guess I'm kind of used to that because I do fish some smaller hooks on a little bit bigger rod at any given time to where I feel if I had straight braid and I do a little hook set, even though I got the drag set sort of right, that I might yank that little hook, not necessarily straighten the little hook, but yank it right out of their mouth, like rip it out of their mouth without that just 6 foot of a little. Anyway. That's probably just me too, getting a little too crazy. So yeah, I was going to end this video 18 minutes ago. We're going to end it now. If you have any questions, comment below. I've been debating on, I keep talking, finding new stuff to talk about. I'm probably going to keep my same boat. Look at my videos if you're wondering what kind of boat I use, a little bitty boat. But I'm thinking about just keeping it, and then, but I am thinking about upgrading trolling motor and batteries. Trolling motor is gone, like it's about done. It's the old Bulldog 40, I think, and they made a fit. I cannot find one. They don't make them anymore, and I cannot find a used one to save my life. So there's foot operated thing like Charles has, and that's about the only other option unless you try to finagle. You get a Minn Kota or Motor Guide, basically foot operated, cable operated by the foot, and then configured onto my transom mount system that I already have, or they may make a conversion. But there's nowhere where I can really just run up and replace my trolling motor, which technically sort of works, but I've got to like flip it up and down manually now without it used to have its own like locking. I just tipped it down and it would clink, and then I'd push a button to raise it up. Now you got to like pull a pin and put a pin in. I had to configure that. And I feel like it slowed down a little bit. So I don't know if I could take it off and go have it, either rework it myself or have it reworked, or something needs done in the motor, the bearings, or whatever. I just feel like it's lost a touch. Still works, but worst case scenario, we'll just go out and use it. But I do have to get the boat legal again because it's gone out of the thing. It's not legal, which if I go fishing private places, not a big deal, but Pogue, I don't think I ever did get that boat legal for Giacomo. Maybe I did. I can't remember. Some of these places up here, you got to not only just go get the boat license, then you got to buy little permits for those lakes and different stuff. So I need to get that done, figure out for sure what I'm doing trolling motor power-wise on the motor, and then just probably go with that boat again. I've been looking at all these different ones, but everything's like a 12-foot. To be anywhere near stable as my little Bass Baby, it pretty much has to be this monstrous 12-foot kayak that weighs as much as a 12-foot John boat, almost like crazy. Like, I don't know. I still think they're missing the mark on these little affordable plastic boats that can kind of, don't drag as much as what a traditional two-man bass boat is. Just horrible about how much drag it has, but it makes it stable. They need to figure out some way of, I don't know, doing what, but there almost needs to be something that you could do to, when you decide to take off, you change something that creates less drag on the water, and then when you stop to, fish, you put something out, not an outrigger, but basically like you're in your stuff on the land, you put like an outrigger out and it makes it stable. Well, surely you could have some kind of pontoon outrigger things that deploy, that then you can stand up and you can move all around, and it's not gonna change how the boat's setting kind of thing. Anyway, I don't know, it's just a thought. Somebody needs to make that. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. I'll be back with another live stream. I don't know when. Probably sometime next week, or maybe even tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, sorry. Maybe even Monday night after I get back from Rogers and see what happened there. So stay tuned. If you, like I mentioned before, if you got any question about the rod and reels we talked about, any of the bass baits I use, you watched another video that I was in and you're like questioning that, drop the comments below. See you later.